Hello, and in this episode, which I hope you can hear clearly, I want to just share with you a particularly good book. One of my favorites is called The Brother of Jesus and the Lost Teachings of Christianity by Jeffrey J. Butts, who is a ordained Lutheran minister in the United States and professor of world religions at Pennsylvania State University. And this book, obviously about James, is particularly fascinating, and I do recommend, if you're interested in the earliest stage of the Christian faith, the faith of Jesus' family, James being a brother of Jesus, of course, and what happened to them and what they believed. I do recommend this book. It's not too expensive and it's very readable, and lots of good scholarship is mentioned here. I think it's based on his master's thesis at university, and I say it's particularly helpful. He obviously mentions James, the brother of Jesus, and he quotes sources from particularly this writer, Eusebius, who wrote the history of the church. Now, Eusebius was born in AD 260 AD, and is the only surviving historical record of the church during its first 300 years from that period. And he draws on lots of primary evidence uniquely that we don't have from anywhere else. And one of the things that comes out of this book by Eusebius, which Butts references many times, is that James, the brother of Jesus, after the ascension, was elected by the chief apostles, Peter, John, and Philip, to be the head of the church in Jerusalem. Not Peter, but James. And also James was famous amongst the Jews for being particularly rigorous and observant Jew. So he really followed the law and was passionate in his attachment to the temple in Jerusalem, is associated with the temple. So he, in a sense, was the opposite of Paul, who taught in Ephesians 2:15, as we've seen in previous videos, that the law had been abolished with its commandments and regulations. James, who was the head of the church, who part of the family of Jesus and appointed by the apostles, taught the opposite. And he wasn't really a Christian. He was a Jew who believed in Jesus, the Messiah, the Davidic Messiah, and that was the earliest faith, if you like, of the disciples. So I just wanted to share with you just a couple of paragraphs from the end of the book, Butts's book, 186, page 186. He says some very interesting things about Christians and Muslims and Jews, summarizing really his research and the implications for the wall of estrangement that he sees between Muslims, Christians, and Jews in the world today. So he says, as abundant evidence has shown us, after Jesus' crucifixion, his family and disciples continued to worship together in the temple in Jerusalem, manifesting no difference between their fellow Jews except in their belief that Jesus was the Davidic Messiah. Unfortunately for these harmonious beginnings, Pauline Christianity, this is the religion that Paul developed, increasingly adopted an understanding of Jesus that Judaism could not ultimately bear: the Hellenistic theological belief that Jesus was literally God incarnate in human flesh. As the doctrine of the Incarnation became ever more central to Gentile Catholic Christianity, an impassable theological wall arose between Jews and Christians. The doctrine of the Incarnation is also the great wall that separates Muslims and Christians. Most Christians today are completely unaware that Muslims highly revere Jesus and honour his teaching, even believing in the virgin birth. But like their Jewish cousins, the strict monotheism of Islam could never accept the key Christian dogmas of the Incarnation and the Holy Trinity. It is therefore potentially significant for interreligious dialogue today that one of the firm conclusions of modern research into James has revealed is that neither Jesus' family, nor the apostles, nor his Jewish disciples believe that Jesus was literally God. This is very interesting because he says it's one of the firm conclusions of modern research. They believe that Jesus was the Davidic Messiah, adopted, in inverted commas, by God as his son at his baptism by John, but still a human being. That the earliest Christian doctrine was in no way incompatible with Jewish doctrine is evidenced above all by the fact that the Jews in Jerusalem continued to accept Jesus' followers as fellow Jews. In fact, they saw them as being particularly rigorous and pious Jews. So these were not like Paul, who played fast and loose with the law and said that you could eat what you wanted and you didn't have to follow the law. Indeed, if you did follow the law and you were circumcised, you would lose your faith. So these people, James and the family and the apostles, were very, very different views than Paul. And then he continues, "It is much more than intriguing that the Muslim understanding of Jesus is very much in conformity with the first Christian orthodoxy, the original Jewish Christian understanding of Jesus." So this is very important to repeat that. He says that the Muslim understanding of Jesus is very much in conformity with the first Christian orthodoxy, the original Jewish Christian understanding of Jesus. Wow, that's amazing. And there's a whole book to discuss how that is with lots and lots of evidence. And then just one final paragraph, which is quite hard to read in a way. It's so horrific. If the implications are extraordinary. If Jewish Christianity had prevailed over Pauline Christianity, history would likely have been written quite differently. It is quite likely that such atrocities as the Crusades, the Inquisition, and the Holocaust would never have transpired. If Jewish Christian understanding of Jesus had prevailed, Jews and Christians might never have parted ways, and Islam would never have become Christianity's perceived enemy. To this day, it is the refusal of Jews and Muslims to accept the full divinity of Jesus that makes them pagan and heathens in the eyes of many Christians. So he is saying, because what happened was when the Gentile Pauline Christianity evolved, it became very, very anti-Jewish, particularly in the 3rd and 4th and 5th centuries, with people like John Chrysostom and others, the Golden Mouth, that's what it means in English, these very famous early church fathers who were rabidly anti-Semitic. And their writing was picked up by people like Martin Luther and ultimately by the Nazis in Germany to justify their hatred and persecution of Jews. Now, if Jewish Christianity had prevailed over Pauline Christianity, of course that would not have happened, because Jewish Christianity by definition is Jewish. So it wouldn't have attacked the Jews. It would have articulated a form of faith that would not have resulted in the Holocaust and the other pogroms against the Jews that the church have been involved with for centuries. And only since the Second World War has that changed. Only in very recent history have Christians stopped persecuting the Jews in that way. So here we have a Christian minister who's a Lutheran ordained minister and professor at a university in the States, who can see, looking at the historical evidence, which I really recommend you discover for yourself by getting hold of a copy of this book, how similar the Muslim understanding of Jesus is to the original Christian understanding, the understanding of Jesus' family, people like James and his brothers and the apostles. So this is a remarkable book. He didn't have to put it that way, but the evidence for him is very clear that there is this remarkable convergence and similarity between those two. And that's good for interfaith relationships and breaking down the wall of estrangement between different people. Now, fundamentalists in the various camps, Christian fundamentalists, hardline Muslims, and hardline Zionists are not going to listen so much to this, but perhaps most people will, and will come to a peaceful rapprochement, reconciliation on the basis of that. Until next time.